Members of the Commission, thank you for inviting me to share my experience as a target of intensifying transnational repression in the United States. In this battle against the Chinese Communist Party, a regime that fears opposition, feeling safe is a privilege. I am among hundreds of thousands of rights defenders in America who live every single day knowing we're being watched and threatened. All incidents of transnational repression I share today took place on American soil. Together, they illustrate the varied tactics of a transnational repression campaign. I served as the executive director of the Hong Kong Democracy Council, a U.S. advocacy organization sanctioned by the PRC. In May of 2023, after I testified before this very commission on the loss of Hong Kong's political autonomy and its implications for the U.S., the regime swiftly retaliated by issuing a 1 million Hong Kong dollar bounty on my head. My assets were frozen, and my passport was revoked, crippling my international advocacy work. More bounties were also later issued on American citizens and residents. The bounty put a huge target on my back. State media, pro-CCP extremists, and individual propagandists launched a coordinated campaigns to discourage the American public from associating with me. Explicit threats to hurt, kidnap, rape, and even execute me on American soil flooded my social media. The lawfare and digital threats became physical in November of 2023 during Chinese leader Xi Jinping's visit to the United States, when I organized protests against Xi and campaigned successfully to bar sanctioned chief executive of Hong Kong from entering the country, the regime decided to retaliate on the streets of San Francisco. Masked men assaulted fellow protesters with metal poles, while WeChat groups circulated my whereabouts on the streets of San Francisco. I escaped physical harm only because fellow protesters protected me. Local police were completely oblivious to the existence of transnational repression and refused to intervene. To this date, none of the perpetrators, including American nationals, have been convicted. And for the first time, I felt as if I had been transported back to the lawless streets of Hong Kong. Even though I was on the land of the free, I am not free. The online campaign and real-life violence achieved a chilling effect across America. Some supporters of the pro-democracy movement stopped showing up to events. A few went as far as to erase their digital footprints. And their response is all too familiar. It happened once in my first home in Hong Kong, and it is now happening again in my second home in America. Nonetheless, I refused to back down. I led a campaign to expose the foreign influence and transnational threats brought by the Hong Kong Economic and Trade Offices. In response, the regime unleashed its cruelest weapon, psychological warfare. Last May, the regime arrested my father in Hong Kong. He was later convicted for fabricated charges. The state-run trial centered on an insurance policy my father had purchased when I was just a 2-year-old learning to say Papa. My father is imprisoned simply because he is my father. He's now a hostage serving a sentence for crimes neither of us committed. The CCP weaponized my love for my family in an attempt to silence me forever. I speak to you today as my 70-year-old father sits in a cell 8,000 miles away. I speak as someone with a 1 million Hong Kong dollar bounty on my head. I speak as a target of rampant transnational repression, and I speak as someone who's standing my ground to combat an urgent threat to American national security. When a hostile foreign power launches centralized effort, spending state agencies, united front groups, and individual extremists to silence people inside the US, the government must respond with centralized, coordinated mechanisms. That's why I urged Congress, in particular the House Foreign Affairs Committee and Senate Foreign Relations Committee, to mark up the bipartisan Transnational Repression Policy Act immediately. Passing this legislation will provide the bedrock for building long-term cross-agency mechanisms that are necessary to protect America. This is a litmus test for the country. If the US does not draw a hard line and act quickly, the PRC will continue to push our boundaries. from running secret police stations to co-opting state officials. States like Nebraska and Utah are gearing up to protect their people, and the nation should get ahead too. We must confront the threats of transnational repression urgently before it becomes a normalized pattern that cannot be undone. Thank you.
Because the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that